The Supreme Court hearing the final arguments of its 9-month term. The big question today, whether low-level crack cocaine offenders are covered by the First Step Act and eligible for a reduced prison sentence. NBC News Justice correspondent Pete Williams joining me now. Pete, this particular case involves a man serving a 15-and-a-half-year prison sentence for possessing barely 4 grams of crack cocaine back in 2008. How did this one end up at the Supreme Court?
Well, he tried to appeal his sentence and say that he should have gotten the advantage of the First Step Act. So here's the deal. You're right. 4 grams of cocaine, that's about the weight of 4 paper clips. And at the time he was sentenced, you would have to have almost a pound of powder cocaine to get the same sentence. So Congress finally did something about that crack powder cocaine disparity and changed the law. But it didn't make it retroactive. That's what the First Step Act did. That was this bipartisan bill that President Trump and several Democrats in Congress agreed to, and it passed. It made it retroactive. The problem is it didn't explicitly say that that retroactivity applied to someone like the Florida man at the center of this case who possessed only a small amount of cocaine. And several of the Supreme Court justices today seemed sympathetic to his plight. Several of them said they thought his sentence was extreme, 15.5 years for 4 grams of crack cocaine. But they said, you know, we're stuck with the text of the law. Now, his lawyers tried to say, well, it can be read as applying it retroactively. But I think a majority of the court doesn't think so. They seem sympathetic to him, but they have to interpret the law as it's written, and they're probably going to say that it doesn't apply to cases like his. Now, there would probably be about 100, maybe 150 others who are in prison serving long sentences who would benefit if the Supreme Court said the retroactivity applied to them because they were also in for possessing small amounts of cocaine, but it doesn't seem like they're going to prevail.
Pete, just to be sure I'm clear here, is the issue just that the First Step Act wasn't retroactive for these lower-level offenses, or does it only cover higher-level crack offenses here?
Well, that is the question. The question is, the First Step Act was meant to apply this, you know, here's what happens. Congress initially sets the law up to provide this crack to powder cocaine disparity. Then after a while they say, oh, well, we screwed that up. Let's reduce that disparity. And then they pass, then they pass that law. Then the First Step Act makes it retroactive. So the question is, did that retroactivity action in the First Step Act apply? It explicitly applies to people who are, there's sort of 3 tiers in the law. The lots, a sort of medium amount, and then a little. He's in the little category. The question is, was that retroactive too? By the way, the people on the Hill who worked on this bill said, well, we sure meant it to be. The question is, did they write it correctly to make it that way?
Pete, you always boil things down so we can understand it, even when it's complicated. Thank you so very much. Before you go, when do we expect an answer here? I'm guessing sometime maybe closer to the summer?
Yes, probably by late June.
All right, Pete Williams, thank you.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.